cloud. Okay, everybody, welcome to the SaveLaw emergency webinar. Just to note, you're going to see IP everywhere, on some of the concepts today. So just before you kind of have questions that get derailed about that, I'd like to just give a quick housekeeping note. IP just is our intellectual property. So anything you see here is protected by instant IP in the blockchain. So that's a patented thing. That means that it's protected intellectual property. So let's get into it. The SaveLaw emergency webinar. First, an introduction. Who are we? We are ApricotLaw, or the company that we run is ApricotLaw, founded in November of 2013. So we've been doing this for over a decade, over 11 years now. I am Nick Kringas, founder and CEO of ApricotLaw. Kellen Bachman is also here. He's our head of client experience, so he deals with all of our clients and client strategy and making sure that they get results. And last but not least is Jerry Vohrer, who is our chief AI officer, and he's had a huge impact since hiring him about a year ago at Apricot, and integrating AI and efficiency, and more on that in a bit. So I am your host. I am a Great Game of Business certified coach. I'm a member of Dan Sullivan's Strategic Coach. Other certifications: Scaling Up Business Mastery, Scaling Your Business Without VC, Blue Ocean Strategy, Great Game of Business Mastery, Marquise Who's Who honoree list. So I take this sort of seriously. It's my passion to grow and run businesses. And as of late, I've been ultra focused for the past, like, let's say 2 years on solving this competition problem for ourselves and for attorneys, and kind of playing our own game so that we're not fighting for scraps like everybody else and making business harder than it should be. So Apricot Law's just a few results, our transformational results that we've been able to achieve over the years. This is our client, Greenstein and Batari, ranked at the very top of Google for New York City personal injury lawyer, which, as you can imagine, is probably one of the most competitive terms on the entire planet. Here's just a view of their Google business profile, the calls view, and some of the keywords that brought them clients over the past couple months. So they're enjoying about 140 calls per month at their Manhattan location only, which represents a 50% year-over-year increase. And they have 4 other New York City locations. So they're absolutely killing it. And this just happens to be one of our longest clients. I think it's our very first client, actually. Here's another Apricot partner in Buffalo, New York. They see an average of 125 bread and butter calls per month from their Google business profile. And you can see the keywords that are driving traffic there on the right side. But just this is just a little bit of proof that we've been working with law firms for a very long time, and we've gotten some tremendous results and transformations for law firms over the year. This webinar, however, is not about the traffic side of things, and we'll get into that soon. It's just to show you that we've had some success over the years. Here is our newer partner, a Las Vegas employment firm that we started working with in January, and they've seen a nice steady increase in calls. And it says here 629% increase. I don't know since when that is, but a nice increase in calls. We've written and authored a book, an Amazon bestseller called SEO for Law Firms. Now let's get right into this webinar, because I'm sure Jerry and Kellen are kind of pushing me to get to the point here, because the last one went a little long. But so I'm going to try to get this in under 60 minutes, without rushing, of course, with covering all of these key objectives here. The webinar key objectives are to discover the number one threat that law firms face today, and this is based on conversations we've had and extensive research we've done in the market. Define the legal industry's biggest problem. Uncover the root problems for B2C and B2 small business firms. And then paint a picture for a brighter future. It's not all doom and gloom. We do have a solution, and we do have a vision for the future for law and to save law. So where are we now? B2C and B2 small business lawyers and law firms are feeling the squeeze. I'm not sure if you've felt the squeeze yourself, but a lot of our clients are saying that they're feeling the squeeze. The industry is now on the wrong side of the supply and demand curve, which I have a ton of experience in. Throughout the years, I feel like all my business experience has taught me this single lesson. Although I didn't learn it at first, I'm kind of learning it as I go. But here's just a little, as a quick recap of my journey, just kind of like empathize, but also to share with you how I've experienced being on the wrong side of supply and demand curve, and how my finances have been, frankly, tied to this my whole life. So when I was growing up, my dad had a bar next to the General Motors assembly plant. It was three, it was, they worked in that plant to assemble cars 365 days a year, 24/7, 365. And there was three shifts that would let out from the plant. So the entire plant would let out three times a day. And on the way home, they would stop into the bar for a drink or three on the way home. And so there, the supply was very limited. There was only a few bars that had liquor licenses, and the demand was just insane. And then fast forward to when I was about 18 years old and going to college, General Motors decided to shut that plant down. So that supply and demand curve completely flipped on its head. And so that we were left with, the only demand left was just locals in the area. No more General Motors workers, and thousands of workers had left the area. So we soon afterwards left that business. The Greek family restaurant, when we started our Greek family restaurant a couple years after college, we were the only Greek restaurant in the area. And then 10 years later, there was probably a dozen Greek restaurants just like ours. So it was a very affluent area. So again, supply and demand was great at the beginning, and then not so great when I decided to leave the restaurant business. And then finally, I took the skills that I learned, that I taught myself at the restaurant, and how to get more traffic to the restaurant's website. And I signed my first client when I left, which happened to be the restaurant's attorney. And then we took the success of that, and I turned it into a career in SEO for law firms. And when we first got started, I was maybe one of a handful of specialists in this niche. And then now, as you know, with the internet, things don't take decades to multiply. And now 10, 11 years later, the industry is just way more competitive. There's probably thousands of people trying to specialize in law firms because it's such a lucrative area. So once again, we find ourselves on the other side of the supply and demand curve, and thinking about what's next to come, and how can we position ourselves and our clients ahead of that next wave. A little bit about how we got here in terms of SEO and the competition, and where we are today. The nature of SEO kind of breeds competition. People look for keywords that they think have demand or searches. They want to see some competition in the area to know that there's money being made. And then traditional SEO tells you to pick those keywords, to look at the top ranking sites, and then to basically copy them almost verbatim, do a little bit more, and see if you can outrank people. So the nature of SEO is very competitive, and it's almost like a copy machine of competition. Then private equity enters the market, buying SEO agencies because they see that it's such a lucrative area, and they're not allowed because of Rule 5.4 to own law firms. So they decide to try to control the traffic side of things, and they buy up a lot of SEO agencies and start bidding up the keywords on that side, the traffic side. So even more competition for the same keywords and for the same traffic and cases. Now we have AI that's entered the market, and I like to call it like a quantum copy machine, because in the past we'd have to create these pages one at a time and publish them. Now people can publish thousands and thousands of pages with a push of a button, basically. So the competition just kind of exploded on the SEO front. So now the competition is competitive, I guess you'd say. Um, so let's keep going. That's kind of how we got here, and how we got to such a competitive spot in the market where the supply and demand curve is kind of now flipped on its head in terms of what lawyers are dealing with and facing. So the crisis and the core problem. Now we're getting into the heart of the presentation. The number one danger for law firms today, and just kind of you could kind of think about these as you go and see if these ring true for you. But according to 100 attorneys that we interviewed, the threat mentioned every single time was competition. The threat that kept these people up at night, the danger that they thought about the most was, in their words, competition. And I categorized this competition in four different ways and four types of competition in the way that they explained it to us. And first is AI, meaning that AI is providing answers directly to potential clients. So instead of reaching out to your law firm, people going direct to ChatGPT and typing in, and having a chat with AI and figuring out their legal issues that way. Local firms, meaning there's just a lot more people competing in the actual local area and for the local terms for the same cases. A big one that always comes up, or more frequent than not comes up, is national firms. Big firms like Morgan and Morgan. Obviously, they come in and they dump a bunch of money into a market, and they eat up all the clients. Luckily, I think that these are all just symptoms. But last but not least is big tech. So this one, seems to be a little bit like obscure, like people are not that worried about it in most parts of the country, but people in states like California, they are much more afraid of this one in particular. And the one guy that we talked to just most recently, he said that he had on good authority that Rule 5.4 would be completely overturned and changed very soon within the next couple of years in California, allowing big tech and other companies to come into law and to own law firms. All right, you guys still with me here? All right, right on. So what is the client demand gap? So the client demand gap is the disconnect between how businesses in a particular industry offer their services and how clients in that industry expect to find, buy, and engage with those firms. So what they want, when they want it, where they want it, and how they want it. So I'm sure you can see in law that it's just an obvious client demand gap. And every other industry that has had this client demand gap has been disrupted, unfortunately, by outside players, people outside of those professions. So what I like to say is, when the client demand gap in an industry gets wide enough, disruption is imminent, because the firms in that industry are not giving clients what they want and how they want it. So 12 examples, I'll go through these pretty quickly, of client demand gap disruption. A lot of these you'll probably be familiar with. And you can see, just kind of, nod along if you agree with some of these, that they are, in fact, client demand gap disruption, meaning like when the client demand gap was wide enough, somebody came in and disrupted the industry. Hotels, Airbnb. And mind you, most of these incumbents tried to fight change and resist change as much as possible. And they didn't end up stopping anything, but their focus was on stopping change. So hotels, Airbnb, taxis, and Uber, real estate and Zillow, search and answers, meaning just search is the way that Google operates. Now ChatGPT and AI is considered answers. People don't want to search anymore. They just want straight answers. Retail and Amazon, TV and Netflix, music, iTunes, then Spotify, banking, PayPal, and Venmo, flip phones to the iPhone. You kind of get the idea here. Cars and Tesla, groceries and Instacart, education and Coursera. So wherever there's been a client demand gap in an industry, I like to say that disruption is imminent because somebody is going to come along and give people what they want and capture that demand that's been otherwise not served. So understanding this client demand gap, or the CDG in law. So what today's consumers want, just, really generally, everything hyper personalized, how they want it, when they want it, and where they want it. So just a couple examples. Zoom, for instance, is allowing people to have calls kind of on demand. A lot of people like to text, not have an actual phone call. If you could just think about it by in your own life, like, it's probably safe to say that you'd rather text somebody than call somebody just because of the convenience there. All right, let's keep going here. So how law firms on the other side like to serve clients. Number one, they're focused on the competition mostly. They're focused on what their competition is doing, how they can position themselves next to their competition to maybe just do it a little bit better than them. It's all about come to us. So this is my schedule. When can you meet me on my schedule, on the lawyer's time, at the lawyer's place? No follow-up or very little follow-up. And I'll go through a little bit of stats in a second in our research of what we found in terms of follow-up and responsiveness. And then lastly, it's the back of the house focus. So this is like a restaurant example. Forgive me, but that's where I came from. So it's like a very easy analogy for me. But in the front of the house is what guests or clients see. So when they go into the restaurant or when they contact your law firm, it's anything that they engage with that they see. So in a restaurant, it's like going up to the hostess stand or the host stand, being seated, looking at the table and the presentation, the plates, the tablecloth. Then the busboy comes and maybe fills up the water, brings bread, olive oil, or what have you at the table. The waiter comes, takes the order. All of those things are kind of front of the house process. And for some reason, it seems like we all default to this, but law firms, especially, I found that they're more focused on the back of the house than on the experience on the front of the house, if that makes sense. So just to look at this kind of visually, lawyers on one side, clients on the other side, and in the middle is this gaping client demand gap in the industry. It's like the disconnect between the two sides in an industry. And I think law has one of the biggest, widest client demand gaps out of any industry right now. And that's why we say kind of save law before somebody comes in and disrupts it and shapes the industry in the way that they want. And kind of they always seem to probably, off the top of my head, I'm not going to go through examples right now, but if an outsider comes in and disrupts an industry, especially something like law, what they're going to do is like they did with doctors, and they're going to put profit over clients and over the client's best interest. So that's why we say save law. That's what we're trying to save law from. So number three, another concept that I want to introduce you to is the 5 ACE, or attorney-client experience barriers. So let's get into it. So now the client demand gap is like a 30,000-foot view of the industry and the crisis of the industry. Now we're getting into like the ground level strategy, like from a law firm's perspective. And the 5 ACE barriers are kind of like I said, hand-to-hand combat, ground level strategy here. So the 5 ACE barriers, why do good cases slip through our fingers? And I think it's because there are 5 hidden barriers stopping potential clients before they ever become clients. So these barriers cost law firms 80% of potential clients, and most firms don't even know that they exist. So that's why this is so urgent that we get this fixed. And these are specific strategies here to close down these ACE barriers. But first, what are they? Let's go through that. So the first one is A. So it's going to be A, B, C, D, E. And the first one is A, which is the awareness barrier. This is the I don't need a lawyer barrier. So 70, a couple of stats and just things that we found in our research. 77% of legal problems never get legal help. People try to handle their, for example, in family law, people are try to handle their marital problems themselves. Maybe they go to counseling or something like that, or just try to work it out. They don't think it's a legal problem yet. 55% of middle income Americans faced legal problems last year. Only 24% sought legal help. So 24% of those 55%, or 24% of the cases, they had legal problems, but they didn't even seek legal help for them. Most wait until a crisis point, making problems worse and more expensive. That's why if you can, that's why you probably agree that when clients do come to you, things are usually pretty dire and it's like a crisis that they need to solve. B, the belief barrier. This is the lawyers are too expensive barrier. So they're questioning whether they should hire a lawyer, even though they've gotten through the awareness barrier. So 76% try to handle legal cases alone first. So like I'll use the internet forums or AI that I find, or things that I find like free resources. They think lawyers will just make things more complicated. I can't predict or control costs. So I know that's not, you might not think of that as a law firm watching this. You might not think of that on your side. You think it's pretty clear in terms of pricing, especially if you're in personal injury. But in most other practice areas, this is certainly pertinent and relevant. I can't predict or control the costs. 55% of negative reviews mention cost concerns. So what we did was, and this comes from a study we did of 100 negative reviews. It was really eye-opening to see across multiple B2C and B2 small business law firm categories and practice areas. There was only a few out of the 100 negative reviews that we looked at. We categorized them into like complaint buckets, and there was only a few main complaints, and cost was one of the major ones. And then finally, a lot of law firms don't care about this. It's kind of a shame, but low-income Americans, 92% of low-income Americans, legal problems receive inadequate or no help whatsoever. And it's really a crime. And I think that, well, I don't think, what it comes down to is lawyers are on one side of this client demand gap, and they're only taking people that can pay them and can come to them or call their law firm and work on their terms. So it's not only that they don't have the money, but we're not even hearing these people's legal issues. They're going completely ignored. C, so there's the second part of the legal category confusion barrier. I didn't know there were different types of family lawyers. So a lot of people, when we were talking to clients about this, and they didn't know that there's such like sub niches of law and of lawyers and specialties. And I know we can't say specialties in most states, but I didn't know there were different types of family lawyers, or I didn't know there were different types of personal injury lawyers. I thought all divorce lawyers handled custody the same way. I didn't realize I needed a specialist for this. So this C, or category barrier, is a big one that most law firms don't think about, but it's what, from our research, it's what clients are thinking about. So this is truly a barrier that is not being addressed today. Most lawyers just put themselves under, the head category of their practice area, and that's about it. And that's not enough. This is one way that we're losing clients here. So 42% of consumers start searching online but get lost in practice areas. Most don't understand the difference between mediation, litigation, collaborative law. So they don't know the areas of law, like even within a practice area, the different types of solutions that are available to help their problems. And people often hire the wrong specialist, wasting time and money. So many people that we talk to on the client side, they had a terrible experience with a lawyer because it wasn't the right law firm. It wasn't the right type of law firm or specialist. They didn't specialize or have a specific prior outcomes or experience in their specific cases that weren't relevant to them. So they wasted a ton of time and money. D, demonstration barrier. The why should I choose you barrier. This is, I think, where most law firms kind of focus their time. And guys, are you still with me here? I have
Yeah.
two screens, so I don't see you all the time, but you guys still with me?
Yep. We're
Awesome.
here.
Do you guys have anything to add at this point? I know I've been talking the whole time so far, but maybe a little
I
break.
do.
So go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna mention on the last one on C. Um, there a really good example that came to me the other day. I was talking to an attorney. He brought this up. He was working in like a family law firm, and somebody came in years ago and needed help with a divorce involving a child with special needs. And it was like very complex and very different from the typical case. There were so many other factors to consider with this child, and he resolved it like um, very well. He did a very good job. And so just like through the grapevine, like 4 or 5 other people were referred to them like within that next year, like with children with special needs. And then he like found this entire like niche that was unsupported essentially underneath his feet. And now he's like known as the guy, like the go-to guy for this type of thing. So
Wow.
so sometimes sometimes it happens to you. But either way, anytime you can niche down and own a category like that, obviously is a good thing. So just wanted to give
Awesome.
that other example. Yeah.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the other family law example? Not to harp on family law, but I remember another example you were telling me about, Kellen, where we were getting all this traffic for like divorce with a narcissist.
Yeah. 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 Found out that divorce from a narcissist is a huge category and was completely untapped until we found it with this client in California. So we ended up publishing a blog post basically around divorce with a narcissist and how to navigate that. And it exploded. It just got tons of traffic, tons of calls all of a sudden. So we leaned into it, obviously, and put out more content around that subject matter. And yeah, he cleaned up with it. He did really well. And he didn't know that that was such a, I mean, by working with people every day, obviously he knew that like narcissism has a role to play in a lot of those cases, but he never thought about like marketing to that niche in
Right.
particular. So yeah, very interesting.
So, I mean, just think about your own practice if you're watching this, and are you niching down and telling people about the specific types of cases that you handle, or you're just, saying that we are family law attorneys that handle divorce? And more importantly, is that visible and accessible to people? Because just keep in mind, people don't want to even search anymore.
Right.
Now we're looking at just answers because search is too much work for people. Well, and you can't blame them with all the information that they're bombarded with these days. Jerry, anything to add from you?
Yeah, I was just going to say on that. Yeah, when every firm is just trying to be, more something than the other ones, like when everybody's copying everybody, and especially how quickly it is now, there's just like mass amounts, and if everybody's focused on, you know, copying what everybody else is doing, it kind of shows how impactful it can be to kind of stand out in that. And then on top of it, making it easy for that client to find that. So it's like you may be the best at this specialty, but how do they know that? And how quickly can they get that? Because like nowadays, and probably not surprising to anybody, but the attention span, due to like just the convenience of information and access to what people are looking for, whether it be calling an Uber instead of like flagging down a taxi or calling or wherever it is, the attention span is down to like 3 seconds. So like you've got their attention for 3 seconds. Like I think sometimes like we separate, especially in any service industry, we separate like the service and how good we are at the service and how true that is from the client experience. And it's like easy to think that they're going to read this giant long thing that's going to explain, and they're going to find the little bit that they're looking for, or that they're going to come onto your site and then they're going to go into the navigation and click on every page until they find what they're looking for. Or meanwhile, like they're looking for that thing, and if they don't find it in 3 seconds, they're going to the next one on the list. And if they find it there, that's who they're going for. So, yeah.
1000% agree. Jerry, thank you for that. So I just wanted to see if we covered this. Okay, D. So we're on D, A, B, C, D, E, in the steps of the ACE barriers. So D is the demonstration barrier, the why should I choose you barrier. 40%, 7% check multiple firms but can't see meaningful differences. So they, all firms kind of look the same, and I'm surprised it's as low as 47%, just looking at all of the websites that we've seen for law firms previously. I bet you could agree with me on this, that most law firm websites kind of look the same, and especially within a category. So all websites say we fight for you and years of experience, no proof points or specific success metrics. So I know that you probably push back a little bit on that, because you lawyers do a good job usually of putting proof at the top, at least in terms of numbers. But I want this is about going even further and making it as relevant to the client or to that prospective client as possible, and as specific to their particular legal issue as possible. Not just about the money, but about the transformation and about demonstrating that you are the one that can handle their specific case. So more on the demonstration barrier, the why should I choose you barrier. Generic case descriptions don't help decision making. 80% of complaints mention poor communication, and 65% mention lack of case updates. So that really, that actually should go into the next one, which is fine, which is the engagement barrier, the communication. We call this the communication barrier. Once someone wants to pick you, or at least wants to reach out to you, then they move into this last phase, which is the engagement period. And the engagement barrier that keeps people from pulling the trigger and signing you as their law firm is really quite rampant among law firms. So we found that 35%. So these stats are remarkable because of the amount of money that law firms are putting into marketing. It just does not make sense that there are such leaky holes at the very end of this ACE period. So 35% of calls go straight to voicemail. Only 10% of firms respond within 5 minutes. That's probably kind of normal, that within 5 minutes, only 10% of firms are that responsive. 42% of firms take 3+ days to respond to messages. Just,
I cannot
it's like,
believe
what
that.
are we doing? We're just burning money.
Yeah.
It's like a profession we're asking to be disrupted. We're like, please come in and do better than this, because we're just not doing a good job. And there's no excuse these days. But 79% of consumers expect response within 24 hours. So back to the client demand gap. I mean, within 24 hours is crazy. I would think that it was even nowadays, maybe because it's law and they don't expect all that much, but this is coming down and down so quickly, where if you're not responding within minutes, these people are lost. They're gone. They're going on to someone else.
Yeah. And the
Just
thing
think about,
is, oh,
I had like you go ahead, Jerry.
I was just gonna say, and I'm sure that like if they're expecting a response within 24 hours, they're not calling, number one on the list and then waiting 24 hours and then calling number two and then waiting another 24 hours. If they're not getting a call, if they're not getting an answer or a response back within probably 5-10 minutes, they're going to the next, and they're given a call. So whoever gets back to them first, or whoever answers, is probably going to get that business.
This is such a good point, Jerry, is because like this is not just, like you said, it's not just like they call one firm and then they wait 24 hours to like If they don't respond, they'll go on to the next firm. It's not like, yes, they expect a 24-hour or less response time, but that doesn't really show that barrier all that well, because within the first 3 minutes, if you don't call back or if you don't pick up, they're on to the next one, because it's just more convenient for them to call a bunch of firms and see which one will respond first. And because everybody kind of looks the same. It's not like they're, banging down one firm's door to be like, no, this is exactly because of the other barriers that we talked about. You get to this barrier and it's like you're a commodity and you better answer if all the other barriers haven't been dealt with.
I was just gonna say that if you're the special needs divorce lawyer, you can wait as long as you want to get back to people. They're
That's
gonna
a good
wait.
point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. Yeah, it's called price elasticity, and in this case, it'd be like communication uh, elasticity. I don't know what the
Yeah.
opposite of elasticity. Anyway, so let's go into the last slide in the ACE barriers. Is the second slide for engagement barrier or the communication barrier. Multiple steps required just to schedule a consultation. So think Amazon, one click buy. Is that how easy it is to buy from your law firm or to schedule an appointment? Probably not, I'm guessing. No evening or weekend availability, complicated intake processes, inconsistent communication methods. So these are all very, very real barriers, these ACE barriers that we've found from clients, from prospects, from people with legal issues, and that we've seen over the years. And not to be just dismissed as, theory. This is like what's happening in your world. So let's move on. So the ACE barrier assessment, I'm going to go pretty quickly here because we're already at 40 minutes or so. But this is a little assessment that I put together just for you to like self-evaluate where you are in terms of these ACE barriers and how well you're doing during the attorney-client engagement period. So just for awareness and the awareness barrier assessment on a scale of 1 to 3, 3 being the best, how well are you helping people recognize their legal issues? So meaning, do you have content and systems in place that help people move from this is just an everyday problem that's going to pass to this is a legal issue that I need help with and I should take a little bit more seriously? B, the belief barrier assessment on a scale of 1 to 3, 3 being the best. How well are you actively addressing the mental barriers that stop people from seeking legal help? Do you have systems that build trust and demonstrate value for the profession? Meaning like that this person with a legal issue, they're aware of it, that it's valuable enough that they should believe that they need a lawyer. Like not you at this point, just like forget about promoting yourself at this point. Let's think about the client, right? They become aware of their legal issue, and now you want them to believe that they need a lawyer, not you, but the category. They need a lawyer. And then, so even before they ever contact you, at this point, after awareness, how well are you doing to actively address this mental barrier of belief that they need a lawyer? C is the category barrier assessment on a scale of 1 to 3. How effectively are you guiding people to understand exactly what type of legal help they need? Do you help them navigate the complexities of different legal solutions? So a lot of times I've seen like lawyers, they're just like, this is what we do. It's not that complicated. I've heard that a number of times. It's funny. It's not that complicated. This is what we do. But to the client, it's like, I was going to say Greek, but I speak Greek, but it's like Greek. It's a different language. Like they've never had a legal issue before. You got to understand that this is probably the first time that they've ever dealt with a legal issue or thought that they needed a lawyer, most likely. So they're coming to you as a novice, as somebody that you have to explain from the ground up what each thing means and what category of law they may need. Okay, D, the demonstration barrier. On a scale of 1 to 3, beyond just telling people about your expertise, how well are you proving it? Do you have systems that demonstrate specific and relevant value in ways that matter to your potential clients? So how well are you, even before they call you, how well are you matching up that, hey, I'm aware I have a legal issue. I know I need a lawyer. I believe it. I know the category of law that I need. I've done the research and I've gotten help. Now, how well are you showing that you can help them with their very specific legal issue? Because just keep in mind here that clients of any industry, but legal clients in particular, they're thinking the top of their mind is, can this lawyer help me with my specific problem? I could care less that they did this, and this, or they won this amount of money or this amount of money. Like, can they help me with my specific issue? Because I don't want to have to do this again. I know it's going to be a headache. Like, hopefully, if you eliminate these barriers, it won't be too big of a headache. But they don't want to do this. Like, one of the biggest things is they don't want to make a mistake here. And it's like such a barrier that people don't realize. So onward here, I think I unfortunately have that one duplicated. Oh no, I just don't have the top letter, but that's a mistake we got to fix. But it's E, engagement barrier. On a scale of 1 to 3, once someone is ready to engage, how frictionless, how easy is your process? Are you meeting them where, when, and how they want to engage? So this is huge, but this is something that you're probably very aware of, because this is where most people focus their time and effort, is like, when people are ready to engage, I have a phone number in the top right and I have a call to action in the, in the above the fold before you scroll. So I'm good, but that's not really good enough. What I mean is, like, specifically, how are you meeting them where they are? And are you providing enough steps or enough different contact methods to meet them where they are, when they want? How frictionless is the process? So 3 being like completely frictionless. I'm available all the time. I have a system where they could like send in a video or chat with me beforehand, or like, how frictionless is your process at the very last stage of the ACE period? So guys, before we move on, you still with me here? Anything to add?
Yeah. I'll add something just real quick to tie this all back to the big national firms that we were talking about, like Morgan and Morgan. You can sign up in their app. Like, you're done. You can go to their app and you can sign up right there, and they'll handle your case without even talking to somebody. And in a lot of niches, that's not going to work. I was talking with another client about this just recently, like, sensitive things like sexual abuse victims and stuff like that are not going to go to an app to, they want to talk to somebody. They want to go through the process. But anyway, the whole point in bringing all of this up is like, Morgan and Morgan has the name recognition and the clout essentially nationwide that they can get people to just sign up in an app without even having a conversation with a lawyer.
Yeah.
So like, if you don't have that, you're going to have to like, I think the old saying is like, pound the pavement a little bit and like get out there and go meet people at their houses, at their hospital bed, like whatever it takes to meet them where they're at, until you're at a place where you have that recognition that you can sign people up with tech easily.
So this
Yeah.
that's a very good, thank you, Kellen.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me, because we were talking to a client yesterday, Rob, about Morgan and Morgan, and
Mhm.
something that it closes this section out beautifully is that he said people don't go to Morgan and Morgan because they're better.
Yeah.
They don't go there because they are better attorneys that provide better service. They go there because it's more convenient.
Yeah.
And the same
Exactly.
thing with AI. People are not asking AI because it's the best legal advice. Like, nobody thinks that. Nobody thinks that AI will give them 100% accurate information, step by step, how to solve their legal issue, and then they're done. They don't believe that. They go to AI because it's so convenient and they don't have to deal with any of these ACE barriers.
Right. Yep.
So it was like
Convenience.
Jerry's
Yeah.
example the other day. Maybe you could say about your haircut example that you were giving the other day.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that was really just if I've got an hour window on lunch and like I need a haircut before the weekend, if I look up the first place and they don't have the hours and they don't have a phone number or nobody answers the phone, I'm not gonna go walk 20 minutes over there to see if they could squeeze me in. I'm
Right.
gonna go to the next one, and if I can book an appointment online for the time that I'm looking for, I'm gonna do it. But I think an even like better example, or like maybe a little bit closer to me and closer to law, is like I worked in real estate for a really long time, or for a chunk of time, and it was right around the time that Zillow was coming in to disrupt that market.
Hmm.
And I'm almost a little bit embarrassed to share this story because it's like in hindsight, it's a little bit embarrassing, but it's true, and it's a personal story, not just of me, but of a lot of lawyers at that time. Zillow was coming in, and that was probably when they started with this estimate, where a lot of people just wanted to know what their homes were worth, and those were the most valuable of the clients because they were like ready to sell, and being on the listing side was more valuable than running the buyer around,
Hmm.
and they reduced the friction. And us as real estate agents or brokers or whatever you want to call us at the time, we were so focused on keeping the MLS from them, from trying to, and we knew, which was true, that we offered better service. And there were some other companies that also were like reducing friction. And we were like, but they don't offer the service that we offer. Whether it's at a discount or this or that, it's like they don't offer the right thing. So we fought them and we kept the MLS from them for a while. And what happened was I was working with clients and they would send me listings from Zillow. Every time they sent me a listing from Zillow, I'd like roll my eyes. I would look it up on the MLS, and it was sold 2 months ago, 3 months ago. So Zillow didn't have a better product. They didn't have better service. They didn't really have any service, but their user interface, the way that they could look up everything that they needed to look up, and the convenience of it all. No matter how many times I was like, "Come on, guys, you got to stop. This one's off the market again too." They still just they searched on Zillow because it was a better experience. And then eventually that won because we were fighting the wrong battle. Instead of taking what we saw that our clients were going towards what Zillow was offering, that convenience, that instant information that they were looking for, without a sales pitch, without yeah, and Zillow kind of took it over, which is why there's not as large of a client demand gap anymore in real estate because somebody closed it. And again, I'm embarrassed to say it, but it wasn't us.
Yeah. Like you always say, Jerry, that like that other professions are now already owned by someone else. Like it wasn't the professionals that closed the gap
Yeah,
and innovated enough to meet clients where they were because they were stuck in their ways.
yeah,
And now, now lawyers have this very unique opportunity where they are protected by Rule 5.4. So for the time being, it's up to them to maintain control of their profession. And that's great because then they're able to keep the highest ethical standards and keep their clients' needs above profit. So it's just a
yeah.
very
And
rare opportunity or window of opportunity that lawyers have that I just want to be clear about.
I just want to add something to that and kind of tie this up. So um, the thing is, back in, I don't know, whatever it was, 2012, 2013, when all that was happening, us as real estate agents, we didn't have the technology to be able to do what like Zillow was doing, what all these other companies were doing, because it was limited. And if you wanted to build something, you had to build it the old way, the hard way, but technology has grown a lot. So it's like the technology that these big companies are using in order to come in and take control of these markets and become the gatekeepers for an industry that honestly they shouldn't own.
Hmm.
Um, that's not the case anymore. So now, like even small firms, have the technology at their hands in order to be able to give that same level of service and meet those client expectations. That's something that we didn't have back then, but that's not the case in this situation.
Yeah, awesome. So not only are we protected, this little window of opportunity is rare because it's protected, but it's rare because we can actually do something about it. and it won't cost hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. So what we've covered so far, the current crisis, the number one perceived danger for law firms today is competition. I say perceived because it's not the real threat; it's just the symptoms. AI, we already said that, people go to AI because not because it's accurate, but because it's fast. Local firms, national firms, they go to national firms because it's easier than kind of weeding through hundreds of local law firms that don't have their shit together. Big tech coming whenever client demand gap is big enough, as soon as they are able to. I mean, they're kind of like, sharks on the outside now, kind of like buying up SEO firms and firms on the outside, like directory firms to control the traffic. But once they're able to come into law, they will, and they'll be able to do this very, very quickly, as Kellen has said in the past. Like within a matter of days, they could put a platform together that can solve this issue, close the gap, and then clients and they are happy, but not the existing lawyers that slept on this opportunity. And funny story, real quick, little anecdote. I showed some of this to my wife Stacy, and the first thing she said was, I don't know who we're rooting for here. Like, I think I want, big tech coming in because they're not doing their job. And I was like, no, that's not the point. So,
That's funny.
so you have like clients that like, they want disruption. They want big tech to come in because they believe, at least in the onset, they'll get better service. More people with legal issues will be served. What they don't
I mean,
realize is on the back end, some like in a doctor's office, you start losing certain things. You have to wait in a waiting room for an hour, or you get prescribed prescription drugs that you didn't really need, or something like that. So
and there's cultural things that are deep seated and go way back. Like, how many jokes have you heard about lawyer? Like, how many lawyers does it take to drive a car off a cliff? As many as you can fit in the car. Like, how many terrible jokes are there out there about that, which are all regurgitated by people until they need an attorney, and then their tune changes very quickly.
yeah,
Uh, it's just like such a cultural thing about lawyers, in particular, that people have. So it's funny.
I think
Yeah.
it's Kellen. I think that's true, and I think it comes from this client demand gap and these ACE barriers that people
Yeah,
are just tired of dealing with lawyers because they'll only talk to them if they have money, and they want everything on their terms. So
that's
yeah,
exactly
it's
right.
it's
Yep.
something that must be fixed. The past is gone. And anybody that's like, the taxi industry or the hotel industry or the real estate industry that resists change just to keep control without starting to think about the client side of things is going to be in for a rude awakening. And history has proven that to us over and over and over again. And
Mhm.
the last thing I want, obviously, because this is a SaveLaw webinar, the last thing I want is to give up the last good profession and to have lawyers mostly just be employees for someone else that's not a lawyer. And that will happen if we don't do anything. So we've covered the client demand gap in law, how law firms currently serve clients. We don't necessarily have to go through this again. What we've covered so far, the ACE barriers and the ACE barrier assessment. We went through all the different barriers and we scored your firm, or hopefully you did, on each barrier. Key statistics: 77% of legal problems never get legal help. 79% expect response within 24 hours. Only 10% of firms respond within 5 minutes. And 42% of firms take 3+ days to respond. So we're just not getting it done. So let's talk about starting to close the client demand gap in law by eliminating the 5 ACE barriers. So I want to talk about just our vision for the future of law. Just one slide very quickly. I know we're getting to about 60 minutes here. The future of law, the attorney-client engagement, or ACE platform, where you could answer every call, never miss a call. There's no time between engagement or communication. Everybody is followed up with. Number 2 is answer chat, which is now, but will eventually turn into a new type of website entirely. So instead of having to like search a traditional website for what you need, which is filled with friction. The future is once you have an answer chat bot trained for your specific law firm and that can handle clients for you specifically, then it'll turn into like the top of the site will be an entire chat bot. And then eventually, once people are used to it, we can get rid of that kind of platform or model altogether and have the website be a fully interactive thing where people, just like you're going into a restaurant or to your law office, they just ask, how can we help you? And then you kind of direct people as you go. And then the end game opportunity is only exclusive for ApricotLaw clients. We will share it with you once you get started, but it's not for public consumption, because I truly believe this is a unique thing that we've invented. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. So it's only for current ApricotLaw clients, and I'll leave you with that cliffhanger there. So the ACE platform, your complete barrier elimination system. So the ACE platform will automatically remove all 5 barriers. So this is the offer that we have for you today. So this is our solution to start closing the 5 ACE barriers. It will automatically remove all 5 barriers, works 24/7 while you sleep, and captures the 77% of cases that lawyers are currently losing. Let's go through barrier by barrier. The awareness barrier, the 24/7 ACE chat bot, legal issue identification, automated educational content, and multi-channel communication. All that is just kind of fancy talk to say that it'll be like the sommelier, if you will, or the person at the door saying, how can I help you? And kind of directing people, in this case, to know if they have a legal issue or not. And if they don't, they don't. But at least they get to talk to not someone, but something that doesn't, that's never grumpy, never takes a day off, always delivers your message perfectly. The belief barrier, the 24/7 ACE chatbot, has trust building automation, legal issue evaluation. So this gets rid of or eliminates the belief barrier, because if they do have a legal issue that where they should hire a law firm, not just go the free route or talk to ChatGPT about, this thing will tell them and sell them on the fact that they should really get a lawyer for this. Like, this is something that you can't handle yourself, and they'll build value in hiring a lawyer. The ACE platform C, or category barrier, the chatbot will also does smart practice area matching, guided issue categorization, automated expertise matching, clear solution alignment. So all that is a little bit fancy. I want to dumb it down a little bit because that's just like really technical jargon to me. But in other words, it will bring the prospect or the visitor down the path of knowing exactly what type of lawyer that they want to hire. And don't be nervous. You know, it might not be you, but at least you're helping these people up front, and you're moving them along, and you're starting to close these 5 ACE barriers. And more people will get through the funnel if the more people, start the funnel, obviously. So that's not rocket science. Like, instead of just focusing on the bottom of the funnel, the E, or engagement, we're focusing at the top, so that we have more people coming through the bottom, and filling up these holes or eliminating these barriers. So demonstration, the 24/7 chatbot and also the ACE platform follow-up system will demonstrate specific case outcomes from your firms to that person, success story automation, real-time results sharing, and targeted proof points. So these are all like hyper-personalized in the way that they want to receive it, whether it's by email or text. They're getting it at their time, on time, and follow-up is you're never missing follow-up. Like, every single person should be followed up with, unless they tell you they don't want to be talked to anymore. They like figure out another solution. Jerry, you have something to say or no?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and hopefully I'm not jumping ahead, but this, like, these like, quote, like, chat bots, it's not just like the chat bot that sits on your like in the corner of your screen on the site that you can like chat with. So it's like this chat bot will also like answer the phone Like it can via text, via WhatsApp, via whatever, or all of them at the same time. And they're all like trained not only on like your site, on your business. So it's not giving random information from the internet. It's also kind of like matching not just the tone of your firm, but also kind of matching the tone of the of the caller, or like of the user, like with empathy, with this, with that. And it's not just like giving information and having a chat and disappearing. Like it's also gathering information. So it's like it's taking those people and putting them into your CRM. So it's taking their name, it's taking their email. It's actually like summarizing the conversation that they're having. So it's kind of
Awesome.
evaluating a case. And it's like, I mean, we can even like, whether or not you want, like we can even kind of have it do that Zillow's estimate thing and be like, well, cases like this are typically blah blah blah, but like I'm a robot, I'm not a lawyer, like, but
Mhm.
it's we've got your information, would you like us to have somebody reach out, or would you like us to schedule an appointment? What's your availability like? And it'll throw it into your calendar based on your availability and all the settings of that calendar. Like this isn't like, yeah, I mean, this isn't a normal chatbot that's given some information about the site. It's also not like the call service that like you might be paying a lot of money for now, where you have somebody who knows nothing about your business answering the phone and taking down information, not offering any value to the person who's calling, and not giving them any insurance that they will be taken care of, or that like you even understand what they're going through. Like this is, yeah, this is
Yeah, I
this is
think another
this
way
is
to say
something
it probably
special.
is it better to say it as better to call it like a large language model. I think an LLM like that's tailored to to each law firm.
It's trained on
Cool.
your business.
And moving
And
people through
ironically,
these barriers. Go ahead.
I was going to say, ironically, it's more empathetic in many situations than actual people answering the call or responding to chats and things like that. Because I've seen thousands of those over the years that are just no good, no humanization there, just order takers
So
essentially.
using AI to humanize lawyers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
It's funny, but it's true.
yeah.
So yeah, actually, one of the major categories, the third major category, aside from communication and responsiveness, in terms of negative reviews, was like rude person answering the phone,
Mhm.
or rude behavior, or rude customer service. So yeah, none of that with this. And like Jerry said, those other things that you're using, like the chat service that captures leads at a per lead cost, um, the phone person that's answering the phone, or after hours like an answering service, all that can be kind of eliminated, and that's all something that these are all things that the ACE platform does already. So finally, the ACE platform, the engagement barrier removal, instant 24/7 response. You'll never miss a call. There'll never be wait times. Automated scheduling right into your calendar, the smart intake process, and document automation, or at least the onboarding automation where you start to gather information. And something that Jerry said that's like so important is that instead of getting 1 to 2% of people on your website to convert to call you, now you're getting exponentially more feedback from nearly every user of whoever, well, for now, it's whoever uses the chatbot. In the future, it's almost going to be a forced engagement where we're forcing people to give us the information that we're looking for at the very beginning. All right. As a bonus, we have a number of hyper personalized bots that can do certain things for you. Content optimized for multiple platforms and uses like landing pages, blog posts, newsletters, social media posts, press releases, bio pages. We have SEO bots that we've been using to help us with certain SEO tasks, like schema markup, to let even not only search know what your page is about, but also AI bots to know what your page is about. Certain business and marketing strategy bots that we use all the time within our own company that could set strategy for you. smart filing system for all case files, search them, summarize them, engage with them, create a brief. And so those are,
You kind of froze up there for a second, Nick.
sorry, I hit the wrong button. Do you guys still with me?
Yeah, we're here.
Yep.
And you still see my screen, yeah?
Yeah. Yep. Support.
Okay, so all of these bots and more, like every time, once you fill out the AI integration profile, these bots are hyper tailored and customized to your law firm and to your voice and to your practice, so that whatever it's producing is specific to you. It's not like you're using just like a out of the box solution like ChatGPT that you have to prompt. These things are all built to do specific things for you, and they're going to be with your information on the back end on the knowledge base, so that it always remembers who you are and what it's doing for you. So those are all included, and then any future hyper personalized bots that come out, you'll get as well. In terms of support, this is limited only to 5 people that sign up, because it's personal one-on-one access with each of us. With me, you'll get one-on-one differentiation coaching, 4-hour long weekly sessions. So 4 1-hour long weekly sessions, unlimited access to Chief AI Officer Jerry Vohrer for 30 days, and 30-minute client demand analysis call with Apricot's head of client experience, Kellen Bachman. And I think we're changing the name. You might see the name ACE barrier analysis, because it's more specific to you and your law firm, which is fine. That's with Kellen. Additional services that we have available, because some people ask for them. The done for you marketing services, like the content marketing starting at $500 a month, where we actually post these things on, create, repurpose, or reformat and publish these things on various platforms for socials, your website, and directories. And then the other additional service that we have specialized in for years is Maps SEO. And we showed you the results at the beginning of the webinar for some of our clients. And we have $1,250 per month for one location, $2,250 for 2, and $3,000 for 3. Sorry, I went a little fast there. But that's for the Maps SEO. If you want to start really growing, and once you have these ACE barriers all plugged up and ready to go, and your system's tight, we can start driving traffic to it, so that we're maximizing every dollar spent. So what you get, the ACE platform setup and integration of 5,000. Quantum Desk was an old slide that we need to update. So that's the ACE platform integration is $5,000 a month value. $5,000 a month, how we came up with that value is not like out of a hat, but when Jerry came to us, we're able to unfortunately replace a few lower level people with AI. So even if you had one person and you're replacing the menial tasks of one person, picking up the phone at 60 grand a year, that's 5,000 a month. So they can go on and do something that's more valuable for your firm. Hyper personalized bots, just to replace one of your agencies that one of these bots can handle, it would be 3,500 a month. But there's a number of agencies that you'll be able to replace and do it, replace with AI. Personal access to us, we put $5,000, but frankly, we've never really offered that for sale on a one-on-one hourly basis. But I put $5 grand down, because you get access, personal access to each of us as a bonus for the first 5 people. So the total estimated value is $5,000 one time and $8,500 a month, or around $100,000 a year if you were to annualize it. And the actual investment is not going to be $100,000 a year. It is, it's not going to be your typical, $5,000 to $10,000 a month SEO agency price. It's $1,000 setup fee plus $399 a month. But for a limited time, we're waiving the setup fee. So it's only going to be $399 per month to have this ACE platform integrated into your law firm, start answering your calls, booking calendar appointments for you. And I know there's a bunch of objections that people usually have. The typical ones are, I don't want AI just handling, saying the wrong things or making mistakes that could put us into like legal trouble. And we've had that, we've overcome that before with previous clients. And it's very easy to do. And we can set this up on a staging site where we can fully test it out beforehand, and put the disclaimers in there that, you know, that AI and large language models make mistakes. Or it doesn't constitute an attorney-client relationship or something like that. But there are ways around that, and that's not something that should stop you from closing these ACE barriers and taking advantage of a very rare window of opportunity before everyone else does. All right, let's keep going. So what you get, just as a recap, the ACE platform setup and integration, AI bots, hyper-personalized and automation for your business, expert access package, 4 weekly coaching sessions, 30 days AI officer access, and strategic analysis call. And there's the calendar link at the bottom. So if you want time on our calendar, just go ahead and book a 30-minute client gap analysis, or now we're changing the name, but let's just call it a strategic analysis call with us at the bottom there. And total value, like we said, is about $100,000 per year. Conservatively, your investment today will be $399 a month with that waived $1,000 setup fee. You also get, as a bonus, the growth accelerators, the content marketing starting at $500 a month, and Maps SEO services starting at $12.50 per month per location. And then act now, because limited time, this is limited time special pricing. I assume this will go up, not that I assume, but it will go up each month moving forward as we get more people signed on and more demand for it. Limited spots available, because especially at the beginning, it's kind of labor intensive to set these up for your firm and put them in your firm's language specific to your firm, hyper personalize everything to you, make sure that they're speaking to people exactly the way you want. But even before all that, like even if you get this thing set up just out of the box, it's going to have such a tremendous impact on starting to eliminate some of these ACE barriers within the first couple of days here. Let's say the first 3 or 4 days you can get this up and running. Schedule your implementation call and start capturing lost cases today with that link at the bottom. It's apricotlaw.com/SaveLaw. That's apricotlaw.com/SaveLaw, and schedule your ACE platform demo today so you can see this thing in action. It really is remarkable. And for $399 a month, it is an absolute steal of a value because of everything that it can do for you and your law firm, and more importantly, start closing the client demand gap and moving towards saving law. I don't know if it's possible at this point, but we're going to do our best to save law from innovation and disruption, and kind of have attorneys, or our clients at least, get there first. Guys, any final thoughts before we close this out? Any thoughts or questions? Anything I missed? Jerry, I got it down. I got it down to an hour and 15. I did my best here.
I mean, it flew. It was a good hour and 15.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, guys, everybody that's on the webinar, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next time. Hopefully I'll talk to you on an actual one-on-one implementation call. So thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.
All right.